Welcome to Leading with Curiosity. Command and control leadership is dead. We interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and executive coaches challenging old paradigms and fostering cutting-edge leadership. Here's your host, certified executive coach, Nate Leslie.
Our guest today is the antidote to the boring corporate presentation. She spent her career on stages, in recording booths, and behind the scenes of global events, including a stint with the Eurovision Song Contest. Can't wait to hear about that. Now she takes all that performance magic and applies it to the world of high-stakes business through her be less vanilla and more thriller philosophy. She specializes in communication skills for geeks, helping senior leaders and technical teams ditch the jelly legs, the drama triangle, and speak so that people actually listen. Frankie Kemp, welcome to Leading with Curiosity.
Hi, Nate. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you're in one of my favorite cities right now, London, England, where you cut your teeth in the acting world, I believe. Let's just jump right into a few rapid fire questions, and we'll get into your background a little bit more as we go along. What's the most vanilla or boring communication habit you see in the corporate world that you wish you could banish forever?
Oh, well, there's a few. So one of them is reading from the slides.
Yeah.
Another one is dependence on bullet points. So this is when people put their script up on a slide. And actually, you don't need the script. Sometimes you don't even need the slide. And if you do need the slides, you don't use it like that. So
where does that come from? Like, where does so many people should be too smart to think that that's the strategy.
You know, the problem is that people mirror what is the most common thing, and that's what becomes culture.
Yeah.
And so when it's really weird because I get brought into companies and they say, I'd like you to make them, oh, what is it that you say, Frankie? More thriller and less vanilla. And I went, okay, then I'll do that. And then we get deep into what that means. And one of the things is over-reliance on slides, too much text on there. And what it's doing, it's suppressing people's personality and individuality. So they sound really robotic and insincere and just
suppressing their personality. Suppressing. Oh, interesting. Let's keep going with the rapid fire because I know we're going to dive deeper into that. What is the most chaotic thing that's ever happened to you while in front of people?
Okay, I'm doing this because it's so vivid. I blanked on live TV with a mass of onlookers watching me, and they were all competing for airtime, but they were I think they were so horrified because it's like one of those nightmare things that happens to a performer that they all just went,
oh my God.
And I ran out the room.
Were you acting or hosting, or what were you doing on live TV?
Luckily, I wasn't performing. I was really young. I was 16 years old and I was fighting for press time, which I got at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival because I was publicising a show that I was in. And I had a massive cast and they sent me out to do it because I had the gift of the gab. But I started talking in this it was real imposter syndrome. I had this voice in my head going, you're too young to be so articulate. What are you doing? You're just a pretender. And I had this voice telling me that, and it shut me up. It won.
I love the early vulnerability here because here you are working with people about how to be better in front of an audience, and we're leading with a story of when it went the opposite.
And you know what? That kind of thing doesn't leave you. The great thing about it is it taught me how to get out of it because they don't teach you at acting school. I know how to help people out of that because I've seen people blank on stage and my heart just go, I just want to shout out what to do.
Yeah. You saw this guitar behind me. The first time I ever got to play like a real live gig in a bar with people standing with a beer, I was just playing some cover songs opening for a band. And I looked down and I realized I was playing the chords to one song and singing the lyrics to another song.
That's brilliant. Gosh. Why isn't that an
act? That's what I should have thought in the moment, but I had voices inside my head saying, what are you doing up here and how are you going to get out of this as well? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have the blanking on stage in common, which is probably one of the reasons people rely on their bullet points is they can just read it like a robot.
Because of the fear. I mean, it's everybody. It's like standing there suddenly naked on stage.
Yeah. Although I have a feeling, I've known you for 10 minutes, I have a feeling you'd probably be pretty comfortable doing that. But anyways, I speak too soon.
Even I have boundaries.
Okay, Eurovision. Eurovision secret in 10 words or less. What's the secret to surviving the madness of the Eurovision Song Contest?
Find a therapist. That's 3 words. Oh, and have fun without going mad.
9.
That's
Nailed
9.
it. Nailed it.
I can't
Less
think
than
of
10
another
words.
one.
That's
Full
perfect.
stop.
Full stop. So you were writing scripts for presenters. Give us 30 seconds of that role and the madness that seems to come out when I mention the word Eurovision.
Well, it was absolutely brilliant fun.
Yeah.
But you are working with people who think that they are on the edge of global stardom in countries that know them really well. So the thing is, there's a lot of pressure for them. And the year that I was doing, it was the first time they had both the semi-finals and the finals televised. So there was a lot of pressure out on the presenters, and I was writing the presenter's script and directing them. And the script would change maybe from memory, maybe about 7 to 10 times per day.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
that because there were 2 lots of producers. There was the Turkish team and there was a global team from the Eurovision Broadcasting Union. And so, sometimes I was also sandwiched into mediating between them and between the producers and the presenters. So it was a lot of negotiation, a lot of handling egos, a lot of working under a massive amount of pressure to get a show on in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
It was a revelation because I'd only ever seen it on TV, and I'd never written for a global live TV broadcast before. I'd written plays. And so somebody had to show me how to do it. So I spent an afternoon with a guy before he was handing the job over to me. An afternoon, cup of Turkish tea, few baklavas, and then
What
I just learnt the job.
Yeah. Wild. Amazing. If you had to walk on stage right now to do a keynote, what song would be playing as you walk out?
So I have to look at my motivation list.
Yeah.
It depends what mode I want to go into. Now, everyone's going to think that I have the most massive ego if I say Sia, the greatest. But that's because I'm stepping into that, not because I feel that I'm there. I might listen to something like Jungle Brothers, Doing Our Own Dang. Right? I reckon everybody gets these on their list anyway. They are such good feel-good songs. Or, I don't know, I love things like Going to the Country by Bruce Cockburn, which is a lovely one. It's very mellow. I smell the countryside. Even cowpat. It gets me into a certain mood, which might mellow me out more than Sia. Depends
So
what
those
mood I
are
want to be in.
so those are 3 very different approaches, right? Manifesting some sort of greatness, and then the second one, like the pump energy, and then this idea of mellow countryside. When you're working with people who are working at their keynote or presentation skills, that mindset, like a manic pump-up song, might make it worse for them. What thoughts do you have on the preparation before you're actually walking up to the front of the room in terms of how it may relate to the type of music that one might want either playing on a speaker or in their head?
So, Nate, I believe that, like all types of communication, it's all contextual.
Yeah.
So you need to know what persona you need to be. So, for example, if I'm giving an inspirational talk, or if you're giving anyone listening is giving an inspirational talk, it's one thing. If you're talking about bringing people on because it's a complete change of strategy, it's another.
Right.
You know,
Announcing
and I
layoffs
think
does not require
I'm the greatest.
the pump up. I'm
by
the greatest. Yeah. So social awareness and context, right? It's like, what song should be playing? That's going to help me. What song does this moment or this presentation, what song does it call for? Right? Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, it was like when I was doing NLP, I remember learning about anchoring the personae or the moods to any given situation. And when you say
Okay,
to people,
let's just back up for the audience.
yes,
NLP, because I know you have the background in neuro-linguistic programming. So you're taking drama and theater and performance, and now you're adding this very important layer.
Another layer.
Yeah. So, okay, we're talking neuro-linguistic programming and anchoring. Go ahead.
I'm pleased you brought in the other elements as well, because it's a really lovely combo.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, what this reminds me of is two different things. Firstly, I wrote an article on management and how you need to wear different hats.
Yeah, good.
For management,
yeah.
But also for creativity as well, and also for presenting. So if I say I was coaching, it was head of R&D at a massive pharmaceutical company, and I said, "How do you want to feel when you present?" To the CEO, because he did these quarterly presentations. He says, I want to feel like I feel when I'm sitting in the car, driving through the countryside with my wife. Very few people say confident. They often say liberated or free, but that's only for the presentation they're preparing for. And I then would say, like, okay, if we're planning the long term and your general roles, are there other feelings that you want to tap into at will? And then we work on using neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically the language of the mind, and how to change that so you can tap into it at will really quickly.
The language of the mind, so you can tap into it really quickly. Can you give us an example?
An example of how to do it, or an example of how you might access a different...
If I were pitching a big proposal to a company tomorrow, and in the morning I have, I'm preparing, I have mixed feelings, how might I leverage the tool of NLP and that language of the mind to anchor?
Right. Yeah, there was an exercise, I remember this from years ago, but it really stuck because it still works with me, is you get into what is called the circle of excellence, and it's an imaginary circle in front of you, and you step into it and you think of what is the it might not be the name of an emotion or a state. It could be, I just want to feel like I felt when I used to go horse jumping, which is what one of my clients said. And she, at the beginning of the session, it was 2 days she spent with me, she was sobbing. She was management consultant. She couldn't open her mouth in front of strangers because she knew she was going to be given feedback. And it's I understood exactly how she felt. By the second day, she was just on it like a carb on it. And, but, what we've done is we've done this circle of excellence where she goes in and she said, well, I want to feel like I feel when I'm horse jumping. I says, well, think about, what are you wearing? What are you holding? Who you're doing this in front of? What can you hear? And I'm taking her through this whole sensory journey. And then what you do is you staple it. So obviously you don't want to do something that you do all the time, like blinking, and you don't want to do something like that, like voguing before an audience, because that'd be weird. So you want to do something which is not so common for you to do and yet effective. So it could be like squeezing the palm of your hand. Tony Blair used to do that before, probably lying about wars. But anyway, so it's just squeezing the middle. Or it could be, squeezing your finger or something like that. And then once you've done it, you don't wait for the feeling to drip away. You get out of the circle, what we call break state. So you shake it all off, go back into the circle. I talk you through it again. This time that state will wear you quicker and you'll feel it a lot quicker. And then you staple it, come out the circle, shake it off, go back into the circle, do it again. And then it would be instant. I mean, I think I did it probably about 15 years ago and I still do the same movement, and it's this. And I did it during a really difficult conversation when I was speaking to oil guys from Aberdeen in Singapore. And they were all going, I don't know what this soft skills shit is, like that. And they really needed it because their communication was not good. And accidents happen. Things fall on people's heads when your communication's not so good, So in the shipping. So, I mean, I use this to deal with it, but like engineers, they want to break you just to see where they can fix you. So it wasn't like they weren't being combative for the sake of it,
Yeah.
but I just had to
But they like to
really
challenge
get
and
my
they need to
resources.
know. Yeah.
Exactly. And then afterwards they were like, well, you don't break easily. You're engineers. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Right. But you have that grounding of that process that helps you not break easily.
Exactly. So the thing is with this exercise, Nate, is you can use it outside of presentations. You
Sure.
can use
Yeah.
it whenever you need to be more emotionally resourceful. But that would tap me into a certain mode. So you might need something else for a different situation.
In a very earlier episode, I interviewed a former street performer, Rob Salafia.
Yes, Rob.
Yeah. And he's works with executive MBA students at MIT,
right.
super smart guy. But
Yeah.
but we talked about this executive presence where you really imagine yourself at your best. He uses an example in that episode of a guy he was working with who was a very uncomfortable, nervous CEO in front of people, and the place they took him to was his former days as a national judo champion or something like that.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah.
because
Thanks for
I
listening.
heard it.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard that.
So
Yes.
similar idea of putting yourself in this previous state where things were really good, where you feel at the top of your game, and adding the NLP and the anchoring, stapling, as you mentioned, element helps you access it more quickly and easily and quite naturally and almost instantly in the future. Is that, in layman's terms, kind of what you're doing?
That is exactly it. Now, it's really a development of what Amy Cuddy and Dana Carney did about power posing, but you have to hold that for 2 minutes. This, you find like the pose that gives you that resource and you staple it. So you don't even have to hold it for 2 minutes.
Wow. And this goes, I mean, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, goes far beyond this business concept too. This is for children with emotional regulation. Like, tell us a little bit more about the academic side or the science side of NLP, where it's applied beyond this world that we live in, helping leaders.
Well, with neuro-linguistic programming, a lot of it takes, I'd say it's kind of a magpie discipline, because it just takes from everything that works. So, for example, there are exercises that they do in EMT. Is it called EMT? When you do the eyes. Yes.
Yes. Let's say yes.
We'll have to look that up, but I think it's EMT. Okay. When you regulate your emotions through the eyes. Well, we were doing that in neuro-linguistic programming, and there were therapists who were doing that already. Now, what came first? I don't know.
Right.
But I learned Gestalt. I mean, I had Gestalt therapy many years ago, and then I went to NLP, and we were doing all this stuff about, right, now talk to yourself, your past self. Now talk to this self. And you had to take on different positions. Or even with bereavement therapy, I've seen people speak to people on the stage and then assume a different position. It's absolutely fascinating. And because there are a lot of actors there, because it takes role play to a really deep, profound, life-shifting level. So I don't do it all the time. I'm only doing it. I'm not one of those people who says, oh yes, that's just NLP is my thing. No, because I'll do whatever works. And sometimes I'll make stuff up because I know that will work. It will be a mix of different disciplines.
And you said there was a lot of actors there, but when you're doing the training, I wondered, there must be some correlation here to an actor getting in the mindset of a role.
Yeah, it's really the same. And I think for you, Nate, as an executive coach, you've seen this because you know how different you are with different people. I think leadership is adaptability, and managing is adaptability. So being able to speak to different people in different gears, using different language, and it doesn't mean you're less yourself. It means you're tapping in to more of yourself.
I love that. Like, I knew right when we met and in my research that we could have a laugh and we could not take ourselves too seriously, right? And I'm sort of vibrating at a certain level.
Yeah.
I have clients like that. And then I have clients who require something different of me. And as a coach, we learn to match the energy of the person that we're serving. If you had just lost someone in your life, and we were talking about that right now, we wouldn't be leaning forward in our chair with the energy that we're bringing. So it's about persona, adaptability. In the pre-interview, you called it improv being a critical skill for leaders. Just say a bit more about that.
To be able to, think off the seat of your pants is absolutely vital. Firstly, decision making. Sometimes, let's just say improvising, you've got to make a decision right now. So someone's asked you, you've got to make a decision, because if you don't make a decision, you're seen as inert, or just a decision has to be made. Then if it's the wrong way, then you'll course correct. Okay. Sometimes the worst thing is not making a decision, or you're called on to say a few words. I mean, who hasn't been in that situation? Or you're in a meeting and somebody's just come up, absolutely blindsided you with an excuse for not having done something that you could never have imagined, and you are dumbfounded. How do you buy time and then deal with it?
Can we use me as an example?
Yes, we can.
Play with me. I'm your client for a second. Hold on to say a few words. Love this. I know that in the right moment, I can slow my cadence. When I'm making videos, I can be articulate, mind my pace, pick my pace. Sometimes in public, I get excited, I get a little wordy, I get a little repetitive. If I were your client and I said, I just want to be like more articulate in those moments, how can I say this message clearly in as few words as possible and then stop?
Stop, yeah.
Right? Instead of repeat.
Yeah.
Paraphrase, summarize, tell them what I told them, go on and on. Where might we start?
Okay. So it turns out that in the past 5 years, I have been increasingly asked, how can my team, how can I be a better spontaneous speaker? We don't want the presentation. We want to learn to speak off the cuff, right?
Great. Like for you and I, that is speaking spontaneously.
Well, I think that you're touching upon the stopping and the pausing. So firstly, it's not about rushing with a response. Firstly, you need to buy time. So, and that buying time is a great cheat, because it looks like you're responding. So for example, I know the CEO who habitually stops everybody around at any level. They could be apprentices, an architect, from, head designers. And he could say, so what's going on with the China project? Right? Like a spontaneous update as they're in the corridor. Okay. So some of the head designers go, how can I feel like I've just given the most moronic answer. How do I deal with it? And I go, the first thing you do is buy time. So you go, the Szechuan project or whatever it is. Okay. You should just repeat the last 3 words. And then you just come out with a very general opinion, like, it's exceedingly complicated. And then you make a point and then give an example and then make a point. So that's the PEP. PEP, point, example, point. Okay. That's not even a full update. But if you do need to give an update, then you just start with what happened, what's happening, current obstacles, how you're going to get over them, or how you're planning to get over them. So shall I repeat that?
Yeah,
because it's a really useful
here's the
structure.
Free giveaway for everybody listening, including me. Yeah.
It's like Christmas has come early or late, depending on when you're listening to this. So you start with what's just happened, where you are now, any obstacles in your way, how you plan to get over it. 4-step update. Shouldn't take any more than 5 minutes. I mean, that's what I've taught all of them now in that company. So when they do their town halls, like once a month, they all use that. So everybody goes around, and it's the stand-ups are so much easier to listen to now.
Yeah, and the more senior the leader, the more high level it often needs to be too. And that framework, that structured approach, allows you to hit the points in a cadence with a plan. So it's spontaneous, but it's a 4-step plan. So it's not that spontaneous. It's, you're coming up with it in the moment, but it's structured. You're sort of coaching yourself through that presentation with those 4 steps.
Exactly. And it's really important, because you see, a leadership skill is succinctness. And look, we all waffle on, right? But you've got to minimize that. You've got to be able to get to the point quickly and then just sit back.
So if I take my example, this is really helpful, and I'm going to re-listen to it and write it down and work on it, because even if I'm trying to be more succinct and say less, this framework gives me a structure about what I should say more or less about.
Exactly. So it's all right. People go, oh, well, I'll just say less, or I'll say you've got to tell them what to say less about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're waffling. You need to be more succinct. But where? Where do I need to be more succinct? So people need a structure.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are other things that people do, though, even if they have the structure, that undermine them. And that is apologizing, not naming when you're going to do something, using weak language like try and hope. That's standard for updates. So this is something that I need to work upon, work on with people, because what happens is your managers will go back to you again and again and go, have you done that? Have you done that? And then you go, oh, I'm being micromanaged or I'm being bullied. But actually, some of this is about the language you're using is undermining their trust in you. And people don't realize what they're doing because no one's pointed it out.
I just finished reading a book called The Culture Map by Erin Meyer. She used to be a professor at INSEAD. Are you familiar with the book?
I am familiar with the book, yes.
Brits, of which you are one, tend to weaken language with a sort of, or a maybe, or a, hopefully, right? What you just described there, where other cultures might pour it on too thick, absolutely, or certainly, or
that's
fundamentally
true.
opposed.
That's very true.
Right? So it can be a cultural thing too, but most of us are somewhere on the spectrum. But the point is, what does weakening that language do in that spontaneous update?
I've just made a video of this on my YouTube. It's a YouTube video on my YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/
Frankie K. But if you go into my website, if I got that wrong, go into my website and you'll just see it on the side. YouTube, Instagram, all right.
Frankie Kemp with a K, and an IE on the Frankie. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec too. Yeah, okay. So you just made a video on the impact.
It does two things. If you're everyone's listening or whoever's watching this, if you want to think about an aspiration that you have and you say, for example, I'm going to try to learn French in the next 2 months. And then you say, I aim to learn French in the next 2 months. The body language is different. Even though I'm not even thinking of my body language or my tone of voice, I realized as soon as these two phrases came out my mouth, there was a slight difference in how I conveyed those phrases. And it's people perceive that. And if you say, I'm going to try and do it, all they read is you've built in failure. You're not going to do it, or when you're going to get round to it. And then you get all these follow-up questions. And then you're like, well, just leave off. I said I'm going to try and do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Frankie, let's go with one more. I'm going to give you a few key phrases from your work, and you pick one and we'll finish with this one, okay? Jelly legs and the performance mindset, the persuasion technique, or cats versus dogs dynamics?
Cats and dogs. Okay. Cats and dogs, because I never get to do it enough. But
let's do it.
I love it, because whenever I do it, people go, oh my God, that was amazing. So dogs are people pleasers. Cats will collaborate on their terms when they want. I have more detail on this.
Sure.
If you just put cats and dogs on my website in the blog, which is tips and tools, frankiekemp.com tips and tools, or blog, actually. Yeah. It's quite easy. And you look and you'll see somebody who's cat-like, somebody who's dog-like, and Indira, she's a leader and she's a mix of both. Because you need to know when to be, not necessarily the people pleaser, but softer, build rapport, get the connection. And then there are times where you need to be more distant, more aloof, more held back. Maybe you just, because if I say the word aloof, people will go, oh, I don't want to be aloof. Let's just say more reserved.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is this nonverbal communication piece, right? And this persona again, what does this moment call for? So if a manager is too much of a people pleaser, at the end of the day, there's hard decisions that need to be made, and sometimes you need to be the cat.
Exactly. And I think sometimes if you think of just the two animals, it's a really quick way of plugging into a completely different dynamic.
So if we round this conversation out back to being in the front of the room now, presentation, keynote, what are the couple of things that we've talked about, or maybe we haven't talked about yet, that you invite people to think about when they're envisioning themselves at the front of the room?
Well, one of the things that people come to me for is nerves. And they think that if they have a few exercises to deal with their nerves, and the truth is that it's rarely nerves that is the issue, actually, because sometimes it's because you've been given somebody else's slides, somebody else's PowerPoint to deliver. That's very common. And that's not what you want to say about that thing. But then that leads me to one of the most fundamental omissions in any presentation, which is the key message. Most of the time, people have never heard the fact that they need to serve up a key message and keep on serving it up throughout the presentation. And the key message is the audience motivator, the what's in it for them from the audience's point of view. 99% of speakers don't do that. And once you've got it, it acts like a colander. And a whole load of information suddenly becomes completely irrelevant. And it will make what you say matter. And if it's shorter than what you are going to say, then bear this in mind. Nobody will ever walk out of a presentation and say, well, I know why I had to hear this. I know what to do about it. It was thoroughly engaging, but they finished 10 minutes too early.
Love it. What a great place to end. You're so good with words. If you brought your playwriting into this, if you could name this episode, what should we call it?
Now you'll try my improv techniques.
Sure. We can get it wrong.
Should I? Yeah. I'm gonna think of the first word that's coming to my head, and I'm gonna go with the music, because I can see the guitar. Because it's not a word, is it? It's a phrase. I cheated.
That's
go
okay.
with the music, because the music has a rhythm, and then you can improvise on top of that rhythm.
Nailed it. Frankie Kemp, frankiekemp.com.
frankiekemp.com with an IE, people.
No one is out of reach. You've had lots of global stories of working around the world. What would you like to leave with people in terms of getting in touch with you and how you can help and how that process works?
So if you go on to Frankie Kemp, K-E-M for mouse, P for Peter, frankiekemp.com, and press contact, you can get a 15-minute, no strings attached, free discovery call. So if you want to speak to me, I work with teams, I work with individuals. There's tons of information there.
Your site is great.
Free.
You've got courses, you've got pathways.
I work with teams of people. If as required, I just pull together some improvisers from Austin and from London, and we grouped together and did something on improvisation and communication for MSLs in America and for pharmaceuticals. It was really wonderful. So the great thing is that what I do is very flexible. I mean, I've been talking about being adaptable and customizing your message. So likewise, that's how I work.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to meet the clients where they're at and be adaptable and help them get what they need from the experience, right?
Perfect, Nate. You know how it works.
Yeah, right on. Great to chat with you, Frankie. Thanks for your time.
And you, Nate. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Leading with Curiosity. Please share, follow, and rate the show so that other leaders can make positive change in the world. Connect with Nate at nateleslie.ca. And remember, the brain behaves very differently when encouraged to think rather than told to listen.